Welcome all to my first article on a very big deal that is coming this year. As the title suggests, VR is making a comeback, but unlike 3D, hopes are high that this will have a much longer and loved entrance and not be quickly forgotten like a Star Wars prequel.
You were the chosen one!
This will be in no small part due to the huge work, effort and technical minds behind these new endeavours this year, with Sony putting much R&D over the years into its own Morpheus, now officially titled the PSVR. Not only this, but one incredibly clever chap by the name of John Carmack has also been recruited by Facebook and the Oculus Rift to get the long in development machine complete and released officially in 2016. This is joined by Steam, or Valve's two-prong approach. From its Steam machines partnered with various hardware manufacturers, it has followed suit with the present only HTC and their new Vive headset. Exciting times indeed. But we also have other options in Gear VR with mobile and some other less high-end aiming machines. But for this video, I will concentrate on the big three and the far more important titles that will be spearheading this new leap into helmet-wearing gaming in this article.
So this is the big secret.
The most likely biggest question is the age-old, well, how much and when? Well, I think I have some answers and, where not, some educated guesses. So, let's take a look at the hardware. First up, in no particular order, is the daddy of modern VR, Oculus Rift. Now, it has officially been announced with a launch date of June 2016, which is around E3 and not unknown, and with an official price tag of $599, which will probably equate to around $499 or £549 and around 550 to 600 euros. Now, there is a spec tester for your PC to make sure you've got enough power to run this, which you can see the link in the video here, and I'll also put it in the description below. But the long short version is you need a GTX 970 or R9 290 or better with a HDMI 1.3 connection on it, so something around a high-end card. You need an i5 4590 and again or better, and 8 gig of system RAM. There is no speed set on this. You need 3 USB 3.0 ports and 1 USB 2.0 port, which in total you need 4 free ports. And it needs Windows 7 64-bit or upwards. So again, we're looking at a 64-bit operating system, which you struggle to not get nowadays. So you're looking at 8 or 10. Most likely everyone's going to be on 10 because it's free anyway. Now, in the box, what do you get? Well, you get the lovely headset, you get the sensor, you get the Oculus remote and all connector cables, along with an Xbox One controller and free games of Eve Valkyrie and Lucky's Tale. These have been added in to give you something to play out of the box, but there is many games available already for Oculus Rift, and there's a lot of mod support in the community there for games that don't support it natively, but they're not going to run as well as a game that does, so you have got a lot of things to try. Now, the first thing is the price is relatively high, and higher than I thought it would actually be. I assumed with the Facebook money it would be slightly subsidised, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Or at least it's not coming in at a wallet-friendly solution, but I'm sure many people will buy it. The only thing to stress with this and the other PC option is you do need a reasonably high-spec PC to run this. Now, on top of this, it does have some extras. The extra is a touch controller allowing dual-handed controls with triggers, buttons and analog sticks on both sides. It allows hand movement with accelerometers and other sensors to detect movement. This is at an extra as yet unknown cost. The system itself has 3-axis gyros, accelerometers and magnetometers to handle user head movement and track view, and this includes, unlike the previous release, a full 360-degree movement. Now, the all-important specs. Again, unlike the original, this now has dual screens with 1080 per eye, running a combined resolution of 2160 by 1200, low latency with integrated audio, or you can use your own headset. Lenses can be adjusted to suit the player. Now, current DK2 that I have used myself only has 960 by 1080 across both eyes, but final systems have improved here, along with a 1000Hz tracker to reduce lag in movement. We do not know actual FPS limits, but 90 FPS minimum would be expected, with 120Hz and more being possible, and most likely the base target. Next up, we have Steam with their Valve HTC Vive, but like the Steam machine, can and will partner with as many more as possible. The launch date is expected to be April 2016, allegedly first to the market, and price is unknown, but based on the Oculus Rift price around the $599 to $749, it may be even more than that, and it may be even slightly less than that, but I think that's really the price they're going to go for, and now that they've got a base to look at, they could go either way. Actual final PC specs at this point are unknown, but it's going to be around the same level of what the Oculus Rift is. The content, again, you get a headset and sensors which include full 360-degree tracking in room, including movement if so wished. But the one thing to bear in mind is every single machine I'm talking about here all comes with connected cables, so you are tethered to the machine and or the screen or splitter box, so you have to be aware of how much you can move and also how much you actually want to move, as VR can bring on motion sickness in some people, and by moving around this is only going to amplify that risk even further. But like I say, this is just a choice for some games. Not every game will need this or even require it. Now currently this was the most popular in terms of spec and quality. Sadly, as of yet, I have not had a chance to test this for myself, but I will certainly give you a hands-on report once I do. But what do we know? Well, the actual final specs have not been fully confirmed, but the specs from the developer edition, the final consumer one, may improve as per Oculus Rift. But right now, we're looking at a 90 FPS, 90 Hz. Both PSVR and Oculus Rift now aim more towards the 120, so I expect this to also change. And it runs a 1080 by 1200 split across both eyes, which brings it in line, give or take, with the OR at the 2160 1200 display, with the PSVR being the lowest of the lot, with 960 by 1080p per eye. Again, you can use your own headphones. And now we come to Project Morpheus, but now known as the PSVR from Sony. Again, the launch date is expected of Q1 of this year, so again we're looking around April, or maybe even slipping into the June release date around E3 for it to launch. Now again, no prices have been confirmed, but my guess would be around $399, which will equate to around £299 and €350, give or take $50 to $100 here or thereabouts. So I think we're maximum looking at here is $499, but I'll be surprised if they go that high, but they may. But I think around the $399 is what they're going to be aiming at. Yes, that does make it slightly more expensive than a PlayStation 4. Now, what do you get in the box? Well, you get the headset, the sensor, the breakout box. Now, unlike widely reported, this is not as big as a Wii, and it has an external processor, but only for VR games and for the distortion of the normal HDMI screen display back onto the screen so that you can see what's going on. It may also be used for some time warping tricks, but most of that will be done on the GPU itself on the PS4. It allows full 3D tracking, and with move sticks in both hands can be used in-game and position tracking. Now, the recommended specs for this are quite simple. You need a PS4, a controller and a Move, along with a camera or EyeToy for tracking, which is the same as the 1000Hz as the Oculus Rift system. Now, I'm not too sure whether or not there'll be an option to buy the VR with the camera or without. I also have a camera myself on my PS4, so I wouldn't need to buy another one, but we'll have to wait and see what the final box retail unit comes with. Specs wise, we're looking at a 5.7 inch OLED split screen across both eyes, giving a 960 by 1080 for each eye, all at 120 FPS or 120 Hz refresh rate. Sound comes from your own headphones or your TV if you want to use that only, and latency is being quoted as low as 18 milliseconds or less, which is very fast indeed. So with all of the machines and the kit out of the way, what can we look at in terms of the actual machines? What we have learned is the early target from both Oculus Rift and Vive have been changed to head more for the same 120Hz target of Sony's machine. And with these both having much higher target spec requirements to work, this makes the aim even easier to achieve. And this can be expected with PC VR games having much higher requirements, and therefore better visuals. This is not to say that what the PSVR will produce is bad, far from it, as you can see on screen. With its base target of 120Hz for all games, this does not mean that all games need to hit this level though. I know this may confuse some. Now, even more so when I say that PC sets can also use these techniques to achieve better visuals and a more consistent and comfortable experience. Like I say, motion sickness is a real thing here. But what are these techniques and how can this be done? Is it black magic? Is it wizards? No, more technology again being used intelligently. The upscale or increase of the frame rate is the biggest mystery for these devices using the hardware and software to predict and reproject the missing information. Allow me to explain. Time warping is the most common, which is really leaving the headset position pole until as late as possible in the render. If we use the assembly that I played at EGX PC version running here and spoke to developers who kindly spent time answering them for me and given me some footage which you can see here and I can use for this demonstration. Now they, at the time at least, are hitting a native render time of 16.7 milliseconds, so 60 Hz for each new image on the PS4 PSVR at the time. I believe the PC version was hitting near a 90. Now, based on Sony's 120Hz target for all games, this means that the reprojection method is needed here, although it will run on all games to keep the experience solid and counter for any pipeline discrepancies. Now, with the target being half of the needed 8 millisecond budget, each new image misses by a clean 50%, so it needs to achieve 2 times this rate, and obviously this is quite a large ask. Now remember, this is the previous fully completed rendered frame. This would and should only be small regions, as human head would not move as quickly as a gaming mouse, for example. To simplify this here, let's say that this screen moved 2 feet in-game from the render information, but I've moved my head 3 feet. Then a motion blur could be added to the object at both ends to extend this, or the objects could all shift a foot or a few hundred pixels to compensate. And this is all generated from the previously rendered frame you see on the top left. Now this would only work with this kind of movement and with the 60 FPS being a minimum natural rate. Every game will need to meet this. The diminishing return here helps, as the difference between a 60Hz to 120Hz is visibly smaller and thus noticeable than the jump from 30Hz to 60. The thing to remember is that for this example, every second frame will be generated using reprojected information. So the system must have a midpoint lockstep that mixes the previous frame with the most recent poll from the player to fill in the gaps and present the final image. This would be less of an issue if you were nearer the 120Hz target, which some games will achieve. Now, by knowing how long the scene will take to render means that you can poll the movement very late into the render stage. With post effects being a known quantity before this is done, we will say that 2 milliseconds of the total 16 millisecond budget are needed to render the post effects. So at the 14 millisecond time slot within the render, stay with me here, the poll request checks the new position and takes the created image and shifts the object by reprojecting from its rendered location and where it would be now. To go in depth here is not relevant, and it will be one that I will most certainly delve into, but for now this is just a high level overview. I can say from my examples of using the PSVR, I did not notice a massive issue with reprojected frame rates on the games that I played, so I'm sure this is going to be a solution that will work across the board, and it will certainly help that motion sickness issue for some people that might play VR games. But all this tech aside, how do they play and what kind of experience can we expect from these? Well, I can give you some info on 2 games I played on the Oculus Rift and the PSVR at EGX last year. I played the Heist with the VR, which you can see on screen, and the first experience was great with the headset fitted well, with no real leakage that you can get from some, although the flap does hang down and doesn't sit against your face, and the comfort was high, display was clear, and none of the mesh behind a fly screen look that DK2 gave me, although I'm sure this has been resolved now for the final release. The fit is good and allows a good level of comfort, but I never found the OR uncomfortable anyway. The game was a driving section within a truck as you escape the heist being chased by the police. The driving is taken care of for you with your partner in crime, leaving you free to take out the pursuing horde, open a can of pop, or just piss around. Armed with an Uzi, you shoot at the cars, vans and choppers as they try to stop your escape. Aiming was easy with the move stick in my right hand. I could aim and see my virtual hand, and then when I ran out of bullets I reloaded by bringing the 2 sticks together and the action causing the reload, and then back to shooting again. You can move your head and lean out of the window. The displays and visuals are very good and clean, with the screens working very well and delivering a really crisp display. Motion, like I say, was very smooth with no real lag issues as I looked around the interior of the cab as the motorway flyovers zipped past. The feeling of being in a genuine chase situation of your own was superb. Although I would not like to spend long periods of time in any VR environment, the sheer fun factor and experience for around an hour or so blasts are going to be great. And where it will really come alive is with friends, taken care of by the breakout box, which ships with all PSVRs, and along with the Oculus Rift and Vive also having options to display the screen back to your desktop, so that others can enjoy your experience or just laugh at you. One of the games I wanted to try was The Deep, which I think works incredibly well for VR. I'm hoping it ships with a free demo section of the PSVR device itself. But as we have seen with Oculus Rift, horror and jump scares always work well. One of the other games I got a chance to try on the Oculus Rift was The Assembly, that looks to merge the horror suspense vibe with the intriguing premise that I enjoyed. The demo consisted of you being strapped into a chair as you delivered inside your new place of work, a secret facility deep in the Arizona desert. I will have a more in-depth video look at this game, which you can see some direct feed footage and a short interview I conducted with the developers last year, where they kindly gave some information on the design and tech behind the games and on all platforms. It is certainly on my list of VR games to look for this year, as it will be available to launch on all three main contenders. But it is these games and more that we can look forward to, and I've compiled my top 10 VR games to hit these machines over this year and possibly next. I'll have that up soon, so please check it out when you get the chance. You can find even more detail on our new website, which will also allow you to check the information at your own pace, along with translation as you need it and away from my accent getting in the way. Check out my Twitter account and follow me for even more current notes or a quick way to get in contact with me. And as always, if you enjoyed this or any of my other content, then please hit that subscribe button if you have not already, as I'm not only very grateful for each and every one of you fine ladies and gentlemen that do, but it also helps me out greatly. Along with that, you are not missing out on any of my new content. Like if you did, or not if you didn't. If not, please leave your thoughts, or if you did like it, leave them below anyway, as I love to chat and hear what you guys and girls think. VR could be very big this year and the start of something even bigger, and there is a lot of great games coming from a lot of great developers, which hopefully you'll see a little flash of in this video and my upcoming top 10 games in VR for 2016. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.
Let me go. Only madness lies ahead. You must believe me.